if I look at you right now, the listener sitting there,
Yeah.
and I say, I smoke, you instantly understand that I'm talking about the present.
Right. Yeah.
But here is the catch.
Uh.
I'm almost certainly not smoking a cigarette at this exact second.
No, probably not.
Right. In fact, what we call the present tense in the English language almost,
Yeah.
never describes what is actually happening in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Because that contradiction right there, it changes everything about how we understand language.
It really is the perfect entry point. I mean, we have this ingrained expectation that grammar is just, a dusty instruction manual for assembling sentences.
Yeah, like a middle school workbook or something.
Exactly. You memorize the vocabulary, you plug in a verb, follow the formula, and you're done. But when you bypass all that memorization and actually analyze the mechanics of the English tense system, well, it operates much more like a psychological mirror.
Which is exactly our mission for you today. You are not here for a test prep session.
Definitely not.
We are going to completely decode the underlying architecture of English to show you how this system literally dictates our perception of reality and, time and perspective. The grammar you use is secretly forcing you to make philosophical choices every single time you open your mouth.
And, that brings us right back to your opening example, the famous, or I guess maybe infamous, simple present tense. It is completely misnamed.
Right. I mean, why do we even call it the simple present if it's not actually the present?
It's a great question.
Let's take statements from our sources like London is a large city or they drive to Monaco every summer. I see these less as live action events and more as character profiles.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, they establish general truths, routines, permanent states. It's basically the static background information of reality.
What's fascinating here is that English demands that you, as the speaker, actually choose an attitude toward time before you even finish your thought.
Wow, an attitude.
Yeah. You have to decide, am I describing a permanent state of the universe, or am I describing a temporary, unfinished process? Because if it's a live-action event happening right now, the simple present is entirely useless to you.
It just doesn't work.
Right. You are forced to shift into the present continuous. For instance, you are studying English grammar.
But wait, let me just challenge that division for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
If I say, I know the answer, well, that's the simple present tense. And I am actively knowing it right now in this exact moment. So why can't I use the continuous and say I am knowing the answer?
Well, because English draws a really hard philosophical line between actions and states of being.
Okay.
Knowing isn't really a process you can be caught in the middle of, It has no duration, no clear start, no clear end. You either possess the knowledge or you don't.
Ah, I see.
So mental states, opinions, possessions, they fundamentally resist that continuous form. But where it gets really interesting is how certain words can actually, shapeshift across that boundary.
Oh, right, like the perception verbs from the notes. The word feel is a really great example of this.
Yes, exactly.
If I put on a jacket and say, this coat feels nice, the word feels represents a static property of the coat.
Right.
I am describing a permanent state.
But if you say, John is feeling much better now, the entire nature of the word transforms.
Right, because it's continuous.
Exactly. Suddenly, feeling represents an active, ongoing process of physical recovery. The continuous form injects motion into the verb.
And it injects emotional weight, too. I mean, think about what happens when you pair that continuous motion with a word like always or constantly.
Oh, yeah.
If I tell you Harry and Sally are always arguing, I'm not just stating a cold fact. I sound exhausted.
Yes, you do. The continuous form there, it implies a relentless, inescapable loop. It signals to the listener that the speaker is just, completely annoyed by the lack of resolution.
Which is such a specific nuance to convey with just an ending ending.
It really is. And this exact same division of labor between the static background and the live action, it governs how we construct the past as well.
Oh, right. The past continuous versus the simple past. This actually reminds me of that classic creative writing exercise from the source material.
The elephant story.
Yes. The sun was shining and the birds were singing as the elephant came out of the jungle.
Notice the architecture there, though, was shining, and we're singing. Those are past continuous. They basically lay down a peaceful, ongoing ambient track.
Exactly. It's like the establishing shot of a movie.
Right.
And then the narrative continues. She was looking for her baby, and she didn't notice the hunter who was watching her through his binoculars. When the shot rang out, she was running towards the river.
Yeah, the tension in that is palpable.
It really is. The continuous verbs build all this incredible sweeping tension, and then the simple past the shot rang out just completely punctures it.
It's a highly effective narrative device. The simple past is essentially the blade that cuts through the continuous background. But this clean division between fixed events and ongoing backgrounds, it really only works when time is neat and tidy.
Which, let's be honest, it rarely is.
Very true.
So we've seen how English handles isolated moments in the past and the present. But what happens when timelines get messy and they start overlapping?
Ah.
That brings us to what I think is the most brilliant, but maybe the most confusing mechanism in the language. The perfect tenses.
The bridges.
Yes, the bridges. So what does this all mean? If simple tenses are fixed points on a map, the perfect tenses are the highways connecting them.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks. I actually like to visualize the present perfect tense as a detective walking into a crime scene.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize the psychology behind it. I mean, the present perfect bridges the past and the present by prioritizing evidence over history.
Evidence over history.
Yeah. Take the sentence, someone has eaten my soup.
Okay, but let me push back on that for a second, though. Why can't I just say, someone ate my soup?
Well,
That's the simple past. The soup has gone either way. Why do we need an entirely separate grammatical structure for this?
because saying someone ate my soup focuses your listener entirely on the historical event. You are talking about an action locked in the past.
Right. Okay.
But saying someone has eaten my soup pulls the listener right into the current moment. The focus is entirely on the psychological weight of the empty bowl sitting in front of you right now.
I get it. The exact time the crime occurred doesn't matter.
Exactly. It connects an unknown past event to a very real, very present consequence.
So the present perfect is entirely about the results staring me right in the face. It's consequence-driven grammar.
Yes.
And if we add the continuous element to it, the present perfect continues. It's like catching the culprit red-handed.
Oh, absolutely.
Consider this shift if I say, someone's been eating my chips.
The dynamic completely changes there. The action of eating might have just finished seconds ago, or, the person might literally still be chewing.
Right.
But the evidence is undeniable because you are literally holding a half-empty bag.
It feels so much more accusatory. Like, someone ate my chips is a cold case.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's been eating my chips means the thief is still in the room.
It creates immediate urgency. And, we apply this exact same timeline management further back in history with the past perfect.
Oh, right.
The English language just hates ambiguity when it comes to the order of operations. The past perfect creates a definitive hierarchy of history.
Okay, map that out for us. How does that work?
Well, suppose we have two past events. Event A is, I saved my document. Event B is, the computer crash.
A classic nightmare scenario.
Exactly. Now, if you just use the simple past for both, the listener really has to rely on context clues or the order of your sentence to know what happened first.
Which can get messy.
Right. But by upgrading event A to the past perfect, like I had saved my document before the computer crashed, you make it crystal clear that the saving happened earlier.
Oh, I see.
Even if you flip the sentence and say, before the computer crashed, I had saved my document, the timeline is completely protected.
It's like timeline armor.
Yeah.
Okay, so English handles the past and the present by constantly forcing us to categorize our reality.
Yes.
We have to constantly ask ourselves, is this finished, unfinished, a result, an interruption, or like a permanent trait? But what happens when we project ourselves forward? I mean, the future doesn't exist yet, so we can't observe any of these things.
Which is why the future tenses require a totally different cognitive approach. When we use the simple future, leaning on the word will, we are generally expressing facts, absolute certainty, or making spontaneous, decisive choices in the present moment.
Like saying, I'll pay for the tickets.
Exactly. It's an assertion of will.
I actually love discovering the historical quirk between shall and will in this context from our notes.
Oh, that is a fun one.
Because today, if I say, shall I open the window? It just sounds like a polite, maybe slightly formal offer. You certainly wouldn't say, will I open the window?
No, because that sounds like you are asking someone else to predict your own physical actions. It's very weird.
Exactly. But you'll used to be the absolute heavyweight champion for expressing destiny in literature and poetry.
It really was.
Think of that classic nursery rhyme line. With rings on her fingers and bells on her toes, she shall have music wherever she goes.
It completely alters the tone of the sentence. It strips away the agency of the subject and replaces it with this grand, inevitable, almost prophetic feeling.
Yeah.
Like, she shall have music means the universe is going to arrange it for her, whether she wants it or not.
It's so dramatic. But,
Yeah.
where the future tenses get truly wild and where the cognitive load gets really heavy is when they ask us to perform mental time travel.
Ah, you're referring to the future continuous and the future perfect.
Yes, I am. The future continuous literally requires you to project your consciousness into an unfinished process that hasn't even happened yet.
Right.
Like this time next week, I will be sunbathing in Bali.
It's not just a prediction, it's a sensory projection. You are literally asking the listener to imagine you in the middle of an action. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, think about the spatial and temporal awareness required to construct the future perfect naturally.
Like the example, by 2001, I will have been living in London for 16 years.
Yes, you are projecting yourself far into the future, planting your feet there, and then turning around to look backward at a span of time that is, right now, still currently happening.
This is grammatical inception.
Yeah.
I mean, you are standing in the future, looking backward at a past that hasn't finished yet.
Exactly.
It makes me wonder, does forcing our brains to map out timelines with this much precision make us inherently more goal-oriented? Because we are constantly plotting points on a mental graph.
It certainly embeds a deep structural awareness of time running out and milestones being reached. I mean, you really cannot speak English fluently without constantly calculating the distance between now and then.
Wow. Okay, speaking of mental gymnastics, here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, let's hear it.
We've meticulously mapped out the real timelines, past, present, and future. But a massive portion of English grammar is dedicated to situations that haven't happened at all. We have to leave real time entirely and enter the multiverse.
The conditionals. The alternate realities, all hinging on a single tiny word, if.
It is a multiverse, but it's a very rigidly governed one. We categorize these departures from reality into strict types. Let's start at the bottom, the zero conditional.
The baseline.
Right, this is our baseline, boring, standard reality. General truths and cause and effect. If you heat ice, it melts.
Very real and possible. No imagination required there.
Right. Then we step up to type 1. This is a possible condition with a probable result. If you don't drop the gun, I'll shoot.
High stakes.
The stakes are incredibly high, but it's a real, physical possibility happening in real time.
Now, step across the boundary into type 2. This is where we leave probability behind and step into true hypothetical territory.
The imagination zone.
Exactly. These sentences are not based on fact. Like, if I was the Queen of England, I would give everyone a chicken.
And we often use the subjunctive mood here to emphasize that departure from reality, don't we? Saying, if I were the Queen of England instead of if I was.
Yes, we do. Using were instead of was for a singular subject acts as a giant neon sign for the listener.
Right, a signal.
It signals instantly that we are entirely in the realm of imagination. It basically acknowledges that the premise is entirely false.
But even type 2 is still focused on the present or the future. Type 3 is the one that really gets me. I actually call this the regret tense.
That's very fitting. The psychology of type 3 is profound. It deals entirely with impossible past conditions.
Like if I had known you were coming, I would have baked a cake. The absolute tragedy of type 3.
It really is.
The reality is the exact opposite of what the sentence expresses, and the door to change it is permanently closed.
You didn't know. You didn't bake a cake. It's an alternate timeline that is just forever sealed off. It's essentially linguistic mourning.
Linguistic mourning, wow, I love that. But what happens if we break the timeline entirely? The mixed conditional. This rule just blew my mind because it defies the linear nature of everything we just talked about.
Well, this is where a timeline in the past alters the present reality, or a general truth alters a specific historical event.
The example for this from the text is remarkably vivid. If the elephant wasn't in love with the mouse, she'd have trodden on him by now.
Let's actually analyze the mechanics of that. If the elephant wasn't in love with the mouse, that is an ongoing present condition. Her love is a current static truth.
Okay, yeah.
But she'd have trodden on him by now. That is a prevented past result.
It's a grammatical butterfly effect. Because of her ongoing emotional state in the present, a physical, historical event was literally rewritten. The elephant's feelings change the physical history of the mouse. The flexibility to express that kind of hypothetical reasoning in a single breath is just incredible.
It really showcases how sophisticated the language's internal logic is, even when you're discussing total absurdities like an elephant loving a mouse.
So we've seen how entire sentences bend time and reality. But let's zoom all the way in. What happens when the subject itself, like the core focus of the sentence, is the thing we actually want to manipulate?
Ah, you're talking about shifting the grammatical focus using gerunds, infinitives, and the passive voice.
Exactly. I always thought of words ending in ing as purely active, running, jumping, swimming.
Sure, most people do.
But gerunds act more like grammatical alchemy. You take
Mhm.
an action, like eating, and you literally freeze it into a solid object, a noun.
Right.
It's no longer something you do, it's a concept you can judge. Like the example, eating people is wrong.
That is a very precise way to put it. The action itself basically becomes the protagonist of the sentence. Like, walking is good for you. You aren't describing a person actively walking. You're judging the very concept of walking.
Now, infinitives, the base verb with to in front of it, they seem to serve a totally different structural purpose. They are incredibly efficient at explaining the reasoning behind our limits.
Oh, they're the ultimate tools of justification. We frequently place words like to or enough before an adjective, and then follow it with an infinitive to instantly explain why a quantity is a problem.
Okay, like what?
Like, this soup is too hot to eat.
Notice the elegance there.
Hmm.
We link the judgment too hot directly with the prevented consequence to eat. To eat is the infinitive, and it requires literally 0 extra words to convey a full logical argument.
It concisely links cause and effect perfectly, which actually brings us to the ultimate shape-shifting tool in the English language.
The passive voice. And this raises an important question. Why do we sometimes completely invert the natural order of a sentence?
It's a great question.
Normally, the protagonist is the one doing the action. Spielberg directed E.T., so why bother saying E.T. was directed by Spielberg?
Well, because you, as the speaker, are commanding the listener's spotlight. By making E.T. the subject, you are signaling that the object that experienced the action is more culturally or contextually important to the conversation than the person who actually performed it.
Oh, I see.
You are elevating the creation over the creator.
Okay, but let's be honest. It's not always about cinematic importance or,
Hmm.
artistic focus. A lot of the time, the passive voice is just a PR move. It's about hiding the culprit.
The strategic omission of responsibility.
Exactly. All the cookies have been eaten. My car has been stolen.
In those instances, the passive voice basically acts as a shield. You either don't know who committed the act or you are deliberately refusing to say.
Right.
You get to express the tragedy of the missing cookies or the stolen car without ever having to point fingers at anyone.
Or, if you are the one who ate the cookies, you get to announce the fact without ever actually confessing to the crime.
Yeah.
You just remove the doer entirely. It's brilliant.
It is linguistic self-defense.
So looking back at this entire journey, it is just staggering how much psychological weight we are carrying in our everyday speech.
It really is.
We started by realizing the simple present is mostly an illusion. We learned how to use the present perfect continuous to catch chip thieves red-handed. We explored linguistic mourning with type 3 conditionals. We mapped out a butterfly effect with an elephant in love with a mouse. And we used the passive voice to dodge accountability for eating cookies.
We have essentially mapped out the cognitive architecture of an English speaker.
And that is the real takeaway for you listening to this deep dive. Mastering this isn't about pedantry. It's not about correcting someone's emails at work.
No, not at all.
It's about understanding that you are equipped with the exact tools to control how your audience perceives time, action, and accountability. You are literally the director of reality when you speak.
Which brings us right back to the thread we've been pulling on this entire time. The English tense system forces us to constantly declare our attitude. You really cannot speak without categorizing your reality.
It's unavoidable.
Is a task finished or unfinished? Is this a permanent trait or just a temporary, annoying process? You have to map out consequences, establish precise timelines, and calculate future milestones.
So much calculation.
So does speaking a language with such a relentless demand for temporal precision and results inherently make us more culturally anxious about deadlines, time running out, and closure than speakers of other languages.
Man, it is the ultimate chicken or egg scenario.
Hmm.
Does the rigid deadline-oriented grammar create the cultural anxiety, or did a culturally anxious society invent this highly specific grammar just to cope with their obsession with time?
It's definitely something to ponder.
Once you see the underlying philosophy, it completely changes how you think about every single sentence you construct. Definitely something for you to chew on until next time.